Last year, I yeeted out my review for The Power of the Doctor, citing jetting off to Disney World the next day to be the reason why. I'd been waiting since before the pandemic to make this holy pilgrimage, and being a massive theme park nerd, I was in my element. And before you ask, no, this isn't going to be a Disney World vlog, I'll save that for the next time I go. Instead, I want to talk about how Mickey Mouse himself has a finger in the Doctor's pie. Build that visual in your mind however you wish. Come late 2023, when the 60th anniversary specials release and beyond, Doctor Who will air on the BBC and become available on Disney+. I assume we'll get the backlog of New Who on the platform and maybe even Classic Who if we ask really nicely, as well as the pretty much confirmed future and hopefully previous spin-offs. But you've read the title of this video, you've seen the thumbnail. We're talking about the crossover to end all crossovers. What if Disney made a Doctor Who ride? A completely hypothetical question, I don't think Walt is that much in bed with Russell, but as both a Who and theme park fan, why not have a bit of fun? First things first, where? There are 6 Disney resorts across the globe: California, Florida, Paris, Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Shanghai. While Doctor Who is arguably known all over the world, an attraction would definitely be more suited to the West, so sorry Eastern parks. While the show did have substantial airtime in France as far as I know, even though Disneyland Paris is only a channel crossing away from the Doctor's true birthplace Blighty, Who was and still is pretty darn popular in the States, so let's narrow things down across the pond. Disneyland in California may be the original park, but Walt Disney World in Florida has a much bigger playground to get lost in, so let's say our Time Lord decided to set up shop there. Okay, so what type of attraction are we thinking? A walkthrough? No, this isn't the Doctor Who experience. I'm sure there'd be a bit more budget than that. Okay, a slow-moving dark ride perhaps, like Peter Pan's Flight or the acid trip I wasn't expecting on the Winnie the Pooh ride in the Magic Kingdom. Well, they're pretty outdated by today's standards. How about a roller coaster then? Do something time vortexy akin to Rock and Roller Coaster or even Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, the latter of which was absolutely excellent. Oh my god. Perhaps that would be seen as an almost lazy means of producing a theme park attraction. Heavy theming for the queue and pre-show, flashing lights and perhaps a few screens for the coaster itself. Thrilling? Sure. Wholly immersive? Perhaps not so much. So let's meet in the middle. Something with a bit of thrill, but with the ability for some serious theming across the board. How about the trackless dark ride system? These have been making the rounds in recent years and they're pretty self-explanatory. The ride vehicles move freely around a show building and even outside, using RFID and Wi-Fi signals to determine their position, next location, and the proximity of their counterparts scooting around alongside them, since they usually travel in herds. They charge via panels on the floor at their loading and unloading stations, and they keep guests completely on their toes as to what happens next since, as their name suggests, they're trackless. There are no rails in the floor to give away their next move. Now, the first one I rode was the Hotel Transylvania ride at Motion Gate in Dubai, and it was pretty bad. Nowhere near as technically impressive nor as immersive as Disney's offerings: Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, Mystic Manor, and Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. They are really quite something, with Rise of the Resistance being the best of the bunch. It's one of the most incredible experiences I've had at a theme park. If you're a Star Wars and/or park fan, you owe it to yourself to head to your nearest galaxy's edge. Seriously. Back to it, Doctor Who plus trackless dark ride plus Walt Disney World. But whereabouts in Walt Disney World? Animal Kingdom? No. They may be doing alien stuff amidst the genuine safaris with the Pandora area, but I don't so much want to detract from the terrestrial animal side of the park even more. Pandora wasn't wholly well received when it was announced, and the sheer thought of Moana or Coco setting foot in Animal Kingdom has already got the Tree of Life worshippers up in arms. Hollywood Studios is arguably one of the better shouts, but they already have 2 trackless dark rides. Magic Kingdom I don't so much think fits a potentially scary Doctor Who vibe, so what about Epcot? It does have a trackless dark ride in the form of Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, but after Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind introduced the concept of otherworldly pavilions in the usually terrestrial celebrations, it would actually be a perfect fit. So what would Doctor Who the ride be replacing in Epcot? If I had to pick one attraction to bin off for it being a bit crap, whilst Journey into Imagination was actually pretty terrible, I'm sorry Figment fans, and the Frozen rehash of Maelstrom was genuinely dreadful. Don't let the ridiculously long queue time fool you into thinking it's good. I think the most worthy to go is Mission Space. Even amidst the bustle of the food and wine festival while we were there, Mission Space's queue barely surpassed a 5-minute wait. Plus, Plus, after riding it, I can see why very few seem to care. In case you don't know, it's a motion simulator built upon a centrifuge with added claustrophobia and bath bags within reach when you're riding. It sounds awful, and it is. So let's take the Mission Space Building and change it up into the Unit Pavilion. Hear me out. The Wonders of Xandar Pavilion in Epcot serves the same purpose as the other pavilions around the park, to allow guests to explore the culture of other nations, or in this case, galaxies. The Unit Pavilion would do pretty much the same thing, but one-upping the Xandarians in the process. Imagine as you enter the building and join the queue line, you find yourself walking through an exhibit akin to the Black Archive we saw in the 50th anniversary special, The Day of the Doctor, showing off all sorts of doodads from all over the universe, with references to specific episodes of the show and its spin-offs for eagle-eyed fans, much like the lobby and the library of the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, referencing episodes of its namesake. The likes of Kate Stewart and Osgood appear on screens to narrate the guest's experience, and as they head ever closer to the ride's pre-show, they find themselves in front of the TARDIS. The real TARDIS. In typical Doctor fashion, our favourite Time Lord has landed at Epcot to see the sights for themselves, with the Doctor allowing Epcot guests to board the TARDIS to contribute to Unit's goal of sharing the rich culture of the wider universe. Guests stand around a replica TARDIS control room with an Emergency Program 1 style hologram of the Doctor appearing to welcome them on board and to explain what adventure they're about to head off on. The hologram of Rey on Rise of the Resistance was really convincing, so doing something akin to that would work a treat. This Epcot crowd then get to move deeper into the TARDIS, into the Doctor's own workshop. Here they've been working on the Type 40 tour drone, a time-travelling vehicle that piggybacks off the TARDIS's power to give guests a first-hand look at both history and the future. As guests board one of a pair of vehicles travelling together, a pre-recorded Doctor begins their tour, sending them through a vortex tunnel and appearing somewhere easy to begin with. It's 1980, and this is a scene of Epcot under construction. Spiel a few lines of how Walt Disney first envisioned this park to be a real community exploring the potential of a utopia, and we move on. Let's go to Epcot 100 years in the future, where a genuine Mars pavilion has opened, most of the attractions are now based on a Marvel property, and the people you saw join the Frozen Ever After queue earlier today have just managed to sit into their boat. Seriously, that queue time is ridiculous. But the Doctor is clever. These Type 40 drones can travel in space as well as time, so let's go somewhere fun. A planet in the far future, something tranquil with multiple suns, rainbow fauna, and a sweet smell in the air. You turn the corner and the pre-recorded Doctor cuts off. The real Doctor's voice fills your eardrums. The capital of this planet is burning. Destruction is suddenly around you, smoke and practical fire effects litter the scene. You've entered an intergalactic war zone. A landed craft with a drastically different aesthetic to everything else around you confronts you as you move through the ruins. That is a Dalek ship, the real Doctor says. We need to get you out of there, now. Suddenly your vehicle jolts backwards, spins 180 degrees, and from whence you came stand two Daleks. But they weren't there before. Daleks? Well, they are the villain of the Hooniverse, plus the trackless dark ride system would be an excellent place to try out something really unique for this attraction's antagonistic hook. The Dalek props in our attraction utilise the same trackless dark ride system as the vehicles the guests are in, just without the guests. Adding movement to the Dome, Ice Stalk, Plunger and Raygun would be absolute child's play to Imagineers, especially since the Dome and Ice Stalk are already motor controlled on the modern TV props, and having pre-recorded lines blare from the speakers within the neck grills of the Daleks would make this ambush all the more convincing. These two Dalek drones advance on you, pushing your group of Type 40 tour drones back towards the ship you saw before attempting retreat. They declare you to be prisoners of the Daleks as you back into the Dalek ship itself. A hidden door behind the guests has opened, and you find yourself surrounded by the familiar decor and repeated heartbeat of a Dalek ship. As you swing back round and move through the craft, the Doctor's voice crackles over the radio. Dalek interference has scuppered the Doctor's control of your drone, and they're taking you deep into their ship for interrogation. then extermination. Passing Daleks watch as you edge closer to some ominous-looking doors, the Doctor's intermittent voice still trying to break through over the speaker. Suddenly you jolt right and you're going somewhere else. You hear the Doctor's garbled words transition to a confused tone as you enter a darkened room. A single blue light high in the abyss. A platform lifts you higher into the chamber, the music swells, and a pretty large animatronic Emperor is bathed in light. The Daleks do like their dramatics. The Emperor's voice booms over the guests. You've been brought to this chamber because you are associates of the Daleks' greatest enemy, the Doctor. There will be no interrogation, no explanation, only extermination. As Dalek drones round up in front of you, weapons drawn, suddenly the Doctor appears on screens flanking the Emperor. The one thing you should never do is allow even a part of my ship on board yours. The Type 40 Tor drone is but an extension of the TARDIS's powerful being, which means I can do this. Lights flash and alarms blare. What is happening? Screams the Emperor. I'm gonna get you out of there. Hold on, the Doctor shouts. Your vehicles move backwards as the firing squad Daleks begin shouting their catchphrase. As your vehicles spin 180 degrees with the two cars coming face to face with each other, the Daleks' death rays blast right in front of your faces. Have you ever been on holiday and you've bought one of those plastic fans that can show a full clock when they've spun up to full speed? Imagine that on a much larger scale, and that's basically how you make it look like laser blasts have flown through thin air in front of you. Star Wars Rise of the Resistance uses this effect multiple times throughout its run, and it's actually pretty spectacular. Now, this is where things get more fun with our loose Dalek drones. Now they can chase you through the remaining corridors of the attraction, screaming obscenities at you as they go. To borrow from 1984's Resurrection of the Daleks, let's say this Emperor ship has a time corridor chamber the Doctor has overridden to get you back to Epcot. But you need to get there quick as to not let the Daleks follow you and unleash terror across the happiest place on Earth. You find yourselves rounding a corner to see but more Daleks pursuing you, cue more laser effects before you back into and find yourselves in the time corridor chamber. As the door slowly closes in front of you and the pursuing Daleks blare exterminate and attempt to blast you through the door, strobe lights flash, you feel a large lurch and everything goes black. Are you alright? I'm sure I got the Epcot coordinates right. You should be back in the TARDIS. Can you see anything? At this point, the lights slowly fade up, and you're back in the Doctor's workshop. Okay, but how? Remember you rose into the Emperor's chamber? Stealing a bit of Star Wars Rise of the Resistance here, when the Type 40 drones came into the time corridor, they locked themselves down onto special plates in the floor. This floor, amidst the loud noises, strobe lights, and also no light, actually dropped down in place to quote-unquote land guests back into the workshop. While the ceiling above doesn't close over the guests, it's kept completely black, so it's not so obvious the Dalek ship time corridor is actually still above them. Cheeky stuff. Since this effect has a more substantial reset time, on this plan I've doubled up these drop chambers so the throughput of the ride isn't massively affected. That Dalek confronting you as you turn that corner, once it's chased you down to the door, it'll remain there for the next pair of drones ready to push them back into the other chamber. And then it all repeats. Clever, eh? After some congratulatory words from the Doctor themselves, the guests round the corner to the unloading station where the vehicles have a momentary charge before they head off to the loading station, ready to do it all again. Of course, on the way out there'll be a gift shop attached too, with all sorts of Doctor Who crap to buy. TARDIS and Dalek-shaped popcorn buckets, some Gallifreyan-inspired Mickey ears, plushies galore, and that stupidly hard-to-get Loungefly bag. They'll fly off the shelves, let me tell you. I definitely didn't sprint across Hollywood studios to get the sought-after Tower of Terror one. Not at all. The idea behind this ride is to keep it as timeless or at least as easily updatable as possible. Choosing the Daleks as the antagonist is a no-brainer. As said, they are the villains of Doctor Who, and while the Time War design is apparently subject to change, it's one we've known since 2005, and they'll still be pretty scary all the same. As for the Doctor themselves, notice how throughout this video I've used ambiguous pronouns. This attraction could, and probably would, see multiple Doctors through their tenures, and since they're only going to appear on screens as a voice and as a hologram, so just a fancy screen, only a day on a green screen set in a voiceover booth would update the attraction to match the incumbent Doctor. Nice and straightforward upgradability to keep things fresh. Change the logo sign outside to match the current logo used across the franchise's branding, and you've got an attraction that could stand for 10 plus years. Unless Disney turn it into something Marvel related or uses the building to house an overflow queue for Frozen Ever After. The chances of Disney Imagineering producing an attraction based on Doctor Who over in the States are slim to none, though I'd love to be proven wrong. Apart from the Doctor Who exhibitions throughout history, the Doctor Who experiences originally in London, then Cardiff, and the various pop-up museum-y things they've done more recently, this would be quite the new venture for the Whoniverse, and you'd find even more people from the UK making that holy pilgrimage to Disney World, riding this attraction and then complaining about how much the England pavilion looks nothing like England. It needs more empty, shuttered shops, kebab houses, and cast members role-playing as chavs. This upcoming era of Doctor Who is going to be bigger and better than ever before, so why not increase its reach? With over 50 million visitors to the resort each year, that's going to be one hell of an audience to expose the Whoniverse to. It'll work for Disney, since it'll get Who fans through Epcot's gates, and it works for Who since there will absolutely be people riding it out of intrigue, then getting hooked on this kooky Doctor character and wanting to see more of these terrifying pepper pots. Hell, I only know that the Twilight Zone exists because I rode the Tower of Terror in Paris when I was 12, and I've watched the original series since, and it's amazing. So come along with me, if you will, to the most magical place on Earth. Let's go to the land of the giant metal testicle and enter the unit pavilion, board the TARDIS, travel through time, do battle with the Daleks, spend far too much in the Doctor Who ride gift shop, then complain about the Florida heat like we Brits love to do. Let me know in the comments below if you're game for a Disney World holiday, and we will do it. After my fortnight there last year, I'm not going to take much, if any convincing, to do it all again. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I've been wanting to make this for a good old while, so thank you for bearing with me. And also, thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.